welcome to Racks to Riches. I'm Carmen. I've been dancing for over a decade, and in this video, we're going to be talking about the thing that happens before you can go in the club, right? Auditioning, biggest auditioning mistakes you can make, things you can do to move that dial from like a maybe to a yes, you can work here, and just what to look out for in the auditions process and how to soften the blow when you hear a no, right? Because in auditions, the one thing I've learned working all over the country, doing dozens and dozens of auditions is everyone's going to hear no. We're all going to hear it that one time you weren't expecting it, and you're also going to get some surprising and unexpected yeses. So we're going to get into all of it. I frame this video as more of like auditioning mistakes because I do think that can be a starting place, but we're really going to focus more on the positive, on the like practical, what can you do, more than like, don't do this, don't do that. First tip, right away, if you are auditioning and you want to up your odds of getting hired at a club, scope the club out, okay? I know it adds an extra step, but I highly encourage you to show up on a shift. Try to pick something like a Thursday or a Friday in the evening where you're really gonna see the club moving and a lot of people there, because you want to collect intel, okay? One of the biggest auditioning mistakes for me before has been thinking of this as like, I'm the one that's just trying to get the job and it's just about me asking you for a job. It goes both ways. You have a work style, you have things that work for you, things that don't. So even in one city, there can be so many different clubs that can be great for your work style or really make it harder for you to make money. So when you go into a club, it's not just trying to figure out like, will this club like me? Will they hire me? But it's also like, do I like this club? Do I want to be hired at this club? Can I make the most money possible with my work style in this environment? What are some things you want to know? You want to see what the stage sets look like. Is it a club where you're going to like touch the pole and stand and look beautiful? Or is it a club where they expect you to be doing flips and it's a 2-story pole and they want pizzazz and acrobatics, right? Is it a club where stages where most of the money is made, or is this a VIP like gentleman's club style where the stage is sort of on the back burner? You can even not do stage sets, but really the money is like in rooms or in dances. I work clubs where you can't approach customers, clubs where there's only dances, no rooms, clubs where no one does dances, everyone's just trying to do rooms, clubs where stage is all the money, right? And all of those are different experiences. All of those are going to work better for different work styles. So figure out what works really well for you and look for that in the clubs you are scoping out. Just because a club is like the best club in the city or that's the one you should go to doesn't mean it's the right club for you. Like there's so many times I've gone to a city and I've scoped out, I've gone to like 3 or 4 clubs in a night to see the vibe, and it's been like everyone tells me work here, work here, work here, and then I get there and I'm like, this club is oversaturated, there's too many dancers, not enough customers, I don't see myself making money. And then I'll go to a club that's like the B club or the C club or that little hole in the wall club no one talks about, and it's like, oh my God, this is a money pit, right? Like it might be next to a business that has a bunch of high-end executives, or it might have management that just lets you charge whatever you want for rooms. Like there really are so many opportunities. So before you just show up and start auditioning somewhere that might not even be the best opportunity in the city, make sure you do your research, check out multiple clubs, and don't just go by someone else's opinion. Remember, you're not them. Your business is your business. So you figure out what works for you and start looking for that when you are showing up to clubs. On top of that, you want to check out some things about the environment of the club, right? Look at their alcohol wall, right? Are they offering top shelf options? Do they have expensive bottles available? Do they have high-end fixtures? Does the place look kind of run down? Does the carpet look like it came from the Reagan administration? All that's going to give you cues about the club. Now, that doesn't mean that because a club's a little less, well-loved and maintained that there can't be money to be made, but it does mean like that's an environment you're going to be in a ton. If you're super busy and you work a lot, you're probably going to be there more than like in your own house at certain times, right? So you want to make sure it's an environment that's going to at least be manageable and that it's going to be worth being in there to make your money. Next thing you're going to want to check out is the dancers, okay? You want to see how many people are on shift, how they're moving, how they're working the club, and you also want to see what the presentation at this club is like, right? Is there a huge variety in outfits and styles, or are there things that you look and you're like, okay, everyone here is wearing a butt cover, I'm probably gonna need to wear a butt cover, or everyone here is wearing high-end lingerie, people aren't even wearing dancer heels, right? That tells you a lot about a club too, and it tells you a lot about like what you want to bring to an audition, right? There's most useful information you're gonna get on where to audition and how to audition is gonna be by just showing up, being there in person, and observing. The last place to observe, and I still count this as scoping out the club, even though you're not going to be there in person, is check out their social media. A lot of clubs are online now, and look, this is not going to tell you how the club actually is. This is why I think it's so useful to go in person if you can, but it is going to tell you how the club wants you to think it is, right? How they want to be perceived. Right? They're usually going to have some kind of social media person, someone running their website, and that person's going to use different verbiage, right? Things like, this is an elite club, or maybe like, this is the club where this actor or this rapper goes, or they'll have super, high energy bottle service videos, or they'll have like a really demure layout that's like, artsy, right? You're gonna learn about the club just by the way they present online, and you can bring that to your audition, right? If it's like, this is a fun club and it's a party drinking club and it's girl next door, you can tailor your audition outfit, your presentation, your conversation to that when you're dealing with management. And the more you can connect what you're bringing to the table with what they want to be seen as, usually the easier and smoother auditions go. Right? One thing I want to mention in this video, because you might be going into audition for the first time or not be familiar with the industry, but if you are going to check clubs out, bring some tip money. Like, yes, you are there to check it out, but end of the day, dancers are there, they're working, throw some tips their way. It doesn't have to be like your whole paycheck from last month, but you are in a work environment, you are in a professional environment, and these could potentially be your coworkers, right? So show up, bring a little tip money, be pleasant, be polite. I really like just taking in my own opinion more than asking a ton of questions. But if someone offers information, if you're like, hey, yeah, I'm thinking of auditioning, and they offer you information, wonderful, right? But make sure that you're tipping for that and you're tipping for their time. All right, so you've scoped some clubs out and now you're getting ready to audition, okay? Maybe you have the main club you want to work at, you have a couple of backups. What not to do is to just show up and ask to audition. I'll give you an example of why. I am maybe 20 years old, I'm living in Atlanta, working out there, and I think, let's go to New Orleans, have a great trip, make lots of money. I've heard of this great club, it's gonna be awesome. Me and my friend pack our stuff into a car, drive out for 6 hours, and show up. And we think we're ready. We've brought our IDs, we have our outfits, we have our work bags. We show up to the door and they say, you need your social security cards. If you don't have those, you can't work here. So we go to like 3 other clubs, they give us the same answer. And we're getting farther and farther away from the best clubs in the city. And by the time we actually find somewhere that would let us work without a social security card, we are working in a teeny tiny club with no customers, bad pricing, we're frustrated, we are not having the trip we thought we were gonna have, and it would have been as easy as calling ahead. When I call a club, here's what I wanna know. What time they hold auditions, what I need to bring as far as documents, and what they want me to wear. All of these matter. The time matters because clubs will hold auditions at different times. It depends on their shift changes, it depends on the hiring manager, and it really does matter. Like if you show up the wrong time, you're not gonna get to audition. So all that hair and makeup and planning and nervous sweat was for nothing, right? So let's just avoid that, right? Let's ask what time they're holding auditions. You're also gonna need to know what documentation to bring so you don't make the rookie mistake I did, and you definitely want to know what to wear because clubs have all kinds of different weird rules about what to bring in. Some clubs will say gowns, other clubs will say butt covers, other clubs will say 2 pieces, other clubs will say 1 pieces. I don't know where they get it or why they choose the things they choose, but hopefully when you scope the club out, you kind of noted what folks were wearing in the club, and when you call, you can confirm what they want you to wear at an audition. Because, even if down the road, once you're working there, you are allowed to wear whatever you want. A lot of times for auditions, they might want to make sure they can see all of your tattoos visibly, or that they can see you doing like your best full skills. And so you want to know what it is they want so you can just deliver on that, get hired, and not have any miscommunication. Now, when you call about auditions, you're not going to ask if they ever hold auditions or might they have auditions, because that makes you sound like you haven't done this before, and you want to sound like you've done this before and you're confident. And if you've done this before, clubs are always hiring as long as it's the right hire, right? So what you're going to call and say is, hi, when's the next time you're holding auditions and what do I need to bring with me, right? They're going to give you that information. Then you're going to ask, is there anything they would like me to wear? Collect that information, write it out somewhere. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Click. Bye. Now, you might be thinking, I called the club, they gave me the time, I'm gonna go audition, we're done here, right? You can do it that way, it's up to you. For me, when I audition, I don't like to waste my time. So if I'm in a city, if I'm about to work, I am not putting all my hopes on one club. So here's why I said write things out, right? When I call for auditions, I'm gonna have the main club I wanna work at, but I wanna have at least 3 to 4 clubs that I'm reaching out to and collecting audition tests, because when I show up to do auditions, I'm basically gonna rank the clubs, right? Like this is my number 1 choice, number 2, number 3, number 4, and that's the order I'm gonna try to show up to do auditions. Why? Because if I just have one club, I show up, I do my best, and they say no, what am I gonna do with the rest of my day? Like go home and be grumpy and have wasted this hair and makeup and great energy? Absolutely not, right? If I'm auditioning, I am getting a job today. So I'm not just gonna plan to go to one club. I'm gonna literally put into Google Maps and figure out how I can make it to all these clubs. So that basically either I get hired at my A choice and I can just start working that night, or if I don't get hired, I'm gonna now say thank you so much, go to the second club, try to get hired there. Oh, no? Okay, thank you so much. Go to the next club, try to get hired in. No? Okay, go to the next club, try to get hired there. The reason I'm gonna do that is because 1, I don't wanna waste my time stressing out about getting rejected, and 2, even if I'm not at that spot that I think is the best club, there still might be opportunities. So why am I gonna waste my time stressing out about one place that I don't even know that well yet, when I can go find other opportunities to make money that same day? By the way, if I do it this way, it means that next time I want to go audition again at that number 1 choice, right? Because no one says I can't audition again and again until I get the job. They're going to remember me as the person that said, thanks so much, have a great day, and moved on with my life. I never ever in an audition, if it goes wrong, want to argue with management, want to cuss anybody out, want to cry, anything like that, because then that's what I'm gonna be remembered by. They're probably not even gonna remember that I auditioned if I show up next week and try again. But if they remember me for some unprofessional behavior, I'm probably never gonna get hired. So multiple clubs, multiple auditions. You can do it your way if that doesn't work for you. But for me, that has been the trick to really smoothing out the auditions process, and then just giving myself a lot of options. Because now, once I've auditioned, even if I get hired at all these places, I can now know how they run their work schedules, how much I have to pay in tip outs, like all the insider info I wouldn't have just gone by showing up and seeing the club from the outside. I can now have and make a really good decision about where I really want to work long term. So now we're armed with all the information we need, and we have a plan of attack for our auditions night. Next thing we're gonna do is get ready to actually show up, right? First things first, when you're planning to show up for auditions, I highly, highly recommend showing up fully ready. Here's why. I think it is a huge mistake to show up to a club in like your gym outfit with no hair, no makeup, and then get ready there to work. Because 1, your audition starts the moment a manager sees you. They're gonna meet you at the door. So you can look the most gorgeous you've ever looked when you show up on the floor, but their first impression is still gonna be you in sweats, with your hair in a bun, looking tired, texting somebody. That's not what you want, right? You want them to immediately see you and be like, whoa, this person's gonna make money. If I can get even a small percentage of that, that's gonna be great for me. Let me hire them right away. So when I show up to an audition, right, I'm going to show up looking amazing, smelling amazing, hair done, makeup done, lashes on, nails gorgeous, wearing heels, wearing a little skimpy, sexy outfit. And it might seem like overkill, but I promise you that first impression is usually where you're gonna get hired anyway, right? So why am I gonna have to make it harder for myself? Why do I wanna have to impress somebody on stage when I can make a great first impression, and then if I have a slip up on stage or I'm giving a low energy performance, you're still like, okay, no, but this person is still going to make money here and they're hireable, like, let's move this along. Other reason for this is you do not know the layout of a locker room. There's clubs with great locker rooms where you might have all this space and a plug-in for your curling iron and great lighting for your makeup, but there's also clubs where you literally get ready like in a bathroom, or it looks like a circus tent that fell apart in 1932. And that club might still be great money, but it might just not be a great place to get ready at. So don't assume that when you show up to the club, you're gonna be getting ready and doing all this and all that. Just show up ready to go. Like, I literally like to show up with my lingerie underneath my clothes so I can like superwoman that thing, like unzip it, put my clothes down, and I'm ready to go and audition, and we're not wasting any time together. I'm also gonna make sure I have all my documentation like in a Ziploc bag in an easy to access pocket, and I'm going to bring like as minimal amount of stuff as possible. I'm talking like my outfit, my shoes, and myself. because for this first shift, my goal is just to get hired, right? So I don't want to bring like a giant bag and lug around 4 different outfits. Like, my goal is to show up, get on the floor, get hired, start working. And down the road, I can bring my stuff, fill up my locker, laddie-daddy, diddle-dally, but not today. If I do bring anything, it is going to be a quick fix kit, right? So if you're wearing lashes, bring a little bit of lash glue, right? Make sure you bring a curling iron. If you know your hair frizzes, make sure you bring a second pair of tights if you know your tights might rip, right? Like, those small little things are helpful, and not every club has house moms, and also you just don't want to be the new person in the locker room having to like ask for favors before you've even gotten hired there, right? Try to be self-sufficient in that first shift, really every shift, but especially that first shift, and try to show up as ready as possible to minimize the possibility of anything that's going to stress you out or make your life harder. It's already stressful enough to audition, right? So make your life as easy as possible. Next tip is music, okay? When I first started dancing, before I showed up to my first audition, I had this idea in my head of like, these are the 2 songs I will dance to, and I'm gonna have a routine, and I'm gonna know my moves, and it's gonna be all prepared and nice and wonderful. And no. Okay, when you show up to a club, the reality is there's going to be a grumpy, grizzled DJ at his booth, and he's really not going to care what music you like or what your routine like you thought you had. And until you build a relationship with them, they're probably not going to play music you like in the first place. So when you show up to an audition, focus more on having a good, strong set of moves that you can perform consistently every time. Lower the difficulty level to something that you can hit every single time you're on a stage, and focus really on eye contact, connection, charisma, personality, because that's what's going to show off in a club. Interact with customers, be pleasant to dancers, be pleasant to the management, right? Don't be like super high nervous energy, because as much as it seems like you're just there to go on the stage and that's the audition, the real audition is as you're interacting in the locker room. It's as you're being walked out to the floor. It's as you're asking questions of management, or as you're getting on stage. And having those slow, calm, fluid movements and feeling very confident about what you can bring to a performance, it's just gonna set you up a lot more than showing up and being like super stressed, super nervous, and then trying to do these really high energy, high difficulty moves that, if you don't have perfectly mastered, are just gonna make it look like, hey, you might have taken a pole class, but you don't really know how to perform as a dancer. And this is something you can even notice when you're scoping clubs out, right? Like, there is a difference, especially if you're coming from a pole background or a more dancing background. See how dancers who are making the most money move on stage. Yes, they're dancing, yes, they're moving, but there's so much more like connection, interaction. It is a social skill. It is a sales skill. So bring that to your audition and you will seem like a professional a ton more than if you, try a level 10 difficulty trick and then, you don't land it and you're stressed out and you're herky-jerky and moving around. All right, so you went on stage. No matter what atrocity the DJ wanted to play for you, you did a great job. You smiled, you interacted with customers, and now you got to interact with the manager and know whether you're hired or not. Here's the biggest auditioning tip I can give you, the biggest mistake I think we can make in the auditions process, all wrapped up in one, okay? Biggest mistake you can make in auditions is thinking your first audition has to be your last audition, okay? There is no such thing as a final audition in clubs. Most clubs, just by club policy, have to let you audition when you show up. And there is no rule that says you can't show up again and again to audition. Now, I'm not telling you to keep auditioning somewhere every day for 3 months if they're not hiring you, right? At that point, you might just be wasting your own time, and there's clearly something that's not connecting between you and management. But there is something to be said for showing up again and trying to sort of rearrange the pieces so that management can see in you what you already see in yourself. And I want to share a couple stories here about how important this tip is, okay? The first one actually doesn't come from me. It comes from another dancer at this club I used to work at. It was like probably my favorite club. It was so fun. It had so many great qualities, but it was such a pain in the ass to get hired at, right? They really wanted like the full combo of like the look that the club wants, the stage skills the club wants, like feeling, I don't know what charts they were using in the back there, but I regularly saw dancers that I thought were for sure going to get hired, not get hired. There was this dancer and she was in the locker room and she was talking about her hiring story. And I just thought it was so awesome, okay? She literally went back to this club 7 days in a row to audition. Because the first time you told her no, and then she went home and she tried a different outfit and came back the next day. And then if that didn't work, she went home and tried a different hairstyle. And then if that didn't work, she went home and tried a different dance style. And eventually, after showing up 7 days in a row, management just said, you're really, really dedicated. At this point, we feel like you're going to do great here just because of how dedicated you are. And they gave her the job. And she was talking about this like years later. And it was so impressive. And I just love that story so much because it really lays out the reality of auditions. An audition is not saying anything about your personal worth, your personal value. It's not even telling you whether you get hired at that club or not. You're just dealing with one person at a time, right? One hiring manager who's making a decision. And there's a billion reasons they might tell you no. Yes, it might be they think you're not a good fit, but it could also be they're having a bad day. They didn't have a coffee. They argued with their girlfriend. They didn't like the song you danced to. I don't know, right? It's just a person making a decision in the moment. So why not try again? Why not try to move the pieces around? Fast forward a couple of years, I'm in this club in Vegas, and now I'm on the flip side of this. I am the one that's trying to get hired, and I just cannot crack the code of this club, okay? I keep showing up back to back to back nights. And usually most clubs will let you at least get on stage, right? Give you the pretense of an audition. This club wouldn't even let me get on stage. I'm 7 years in the industry. I know what I'm doing. I have worked all over the country. I'm like, why the fuck won't these people let me show them what I can do? So I show up the first night, we're not taking auditions, come back in 3 months. Show up the next night, we're not taking auditions, don't come back. Show up the night after that, still not happening. And I go to like a wig store. I buy a blonde, like Game of Thrones wig, stick it on my head and show up again. And all of a sudden, the same guy that has told me for 3 nights that they're not even doing auditions goes, "Hi, so nice to meet you. I would love to have you audition." Okay? Same outfit, same dance moves, same everything. He didn't even know I was the same person. This guy on that day just wanted to hire someone with a blonde crazy wig. Don't ask me why. That's none of my business. What was my business is I got hired, and then I could show up to the club looking however I wanted and make money at that club. And all it took was just switching a couple of things up and just being patient with myself and saying, you know, this is not on me. There's something going on here, and there's some piece I can move around to make this work. So that's something I always carry with me. I think it can be so helpful, and I think it can take a lot of the stress out of auditioning. Like, yes, it's one opportunity to get hired, but it's not the only opportunity to get hired. Try a lot of options, get creative. Don't let one no break up your whole process or make you feel like you can't work at a specific club. Now, let's talk about the flip side of this, right? Which is, what if you do get hired? You get off stage, they're like, yes, wonderful, you get to work here, let's go. When I audition, I like to show up as if I'm gonna work a full shift, because if I get hired that night, I already did the hair and makeup, I'm already here, let's start making money. If you get hired, you're going to be doing paperwork, you're going to be filling out a lot of forms, and you're going to be learning a lot about the club right away. So I want to cover a little bit of that too, because that is part of your audition night, right? That's still part of an audition. So if you get hired, make sure that you have something to write with or something to take photos or notes with, right? I always like bringing my audition, right? Bringing a little clutch with me, because one, I want to know like what the hours of the club are, what my schedule is going to be, what my tip outs are going to be, how much I need to charge customers for different things in the club, how much leeway I have, what the rules are. Already, I'm like, that's a lot of information. I'm not going to retain that right away. So maybe you're a better dancer than I am and you can retain all that in your head. For me, I just did all that dancing. I just released a lot of endorphins and adrenaline. So I'm going to pull out my phone, I'm going to hit notes, and I'm going to start typing out as much information as they're giving me, right? And I'm going to make sure that all that is in one place, so that after I'm done talking to the manager who showed me around the club, I can sit down with myself and go, okay, rooms are this much, dances are this much, the VIP area is over here. And whenever there's something I don't know, I can just add it to that note for myself. So I don't have to be walking and working the room while also trying to memorize this. I also think it's like a cute starter and opener with a customer, right? Like if someone's like, what's the cost of this? You know, it's one thing to be like, oh God, I'm just not sure. And then I'm freaking out and I'm like, oh God, it's my first night. Or it can be an asset. Like, actually, it's my first night. I have no idea, but I'm a really good student and I took notes. So it's going to be this much, but because it's my first night here, you have to do this much to show me that you really want me to stick around, right? Now I have a little sales pitch, I have something built in, and I have all the information I need to get started. Last thing here for an audition night is on the first night at a club, I am not putting pressure on myself. I think that can make life a lot harder. I used to, when I first started, be like so competitive with myself. Like, it's my first night here and I'm gonna try to just make as much money as possible. But I realized that if I just take a more laid back approach that first night and I treat it like, this is my audition night, this is my get out of jail free card night, I tend to have more fun. I tend to come off as more like excited to be there and exciting to be around for customers, which automatically just makes me sales. And it also helps me start building connections, right? Because I'm gonna wanna work with floor staff, I'm gonna wanna get to know management and the DJ and other dancers. And as much fun and as rewarding as I think it is to like work a room and move around and like go, 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 I think there is such a value to slowing down, taking things in, and really appreciating like, hey, I just got this brand new opportunity. I'm about to take in a lot of information, and it's okay if tonight I don't go home with the biggest bag of all time, right? Because once you have all the facts, all the info, and you know how the club runs, it's going to be just 10 times easier to work the room and to feel really confident. So give yourself the room to learn that first night. Give yourself the room to get hired at clubs, even if you don't get hired that first night. And I hope you found some tips in here that were useful and that will help you with auditions moving forward. Feel free to drop any tips in the comments that have helped you get hired at clubs, any tips that have helped you scope out what clubs you want to work at. And I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope there were tips for everybody, whether you're just getting started or whether you are a seasoned dancer and you're looking to expand your opportunities and check out more clubs and have more successful auditions. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you like this kind of content, and I'll see you on the next one.